They're all dead. Don't have to wait this time, 'cause I'm giving up on my sense of
A year and a half. It's quite a long time. My goodness. The Smack is back, and it is good to be back right here. Hitbicky TMD on YouTube alongside me. It's Matt, it's been so long, I don't even know how I used to intro the show, to be honest.
You know, I forgot intros, I forgot everything. Everything's changed, Travis. A year and a half. Life's changed, we've changed, wrestling's changed, the world's changed.
But you know,
we're back.
Yeah, and the classic expression always goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So good to have you back, Matt. The Smack is back, Union Smack. Man, what a ride it's been this year and a half, not only in our personal lives, but pro wrestling in general. Everything's gotten so out of hand and crazy. Huge signings, companies taking off, companies going to shit, injuries, COVIDs, everything and then some you can imagine in the pro wrestling world. And that's why we're here today. We don't have a format. We don't have a... Now, next time we return, we will. We'll be back in form. The only NXT UK podcast that matters. It's been way too long since we cover NXT UK. Look for that next week. But this week, Matt, we're just kind of going to gloss over and play a little bit of catch-up in the crazy world known as professional wrestling. But before we do that, my friend, it feels so good to say this once again. Where can everyone catch you and all that you do?
You can catch me on Twitter under my new handle, Bruisermate. That's M8. Don't try and type the word mate in it. It won't come up. You can go to lulu.com, where you can now pick up The Undertaker, A Trip Down Death Valley, NXT UK, Year 1 books, and I think that's it for me. But I'd just like to say a big thank you to everyone who has bought The Undertaker book, at least. We've sold, we must be into like thousands now we've sold, so thank you very much. And you know, sales still climbing. It's been a bigger hit than I could have ever imagined when I wrote it, especially when I published it. So God bless you all for that.
It's quite the accomplishment. It's a hell of a book. I finally got myself a copy over the past year and a half. It's so weird to open a book and see your name in the foreword or the intro. It blows my mind every time to see myself alongside a published author. Congrats on the success of your book. It's amazing. Guys, pick it up today. You should have picked it up yesterday. A Trip Down Death Valley, Undertaker. Some things haven't changed. We still got our merch store, our original merch store, unionsmack.bigcartel.com. But new news, Matt. That's a little breaking news thanks to a good pal of ours.
Yes, we are now on Pro Wrestling Tees, thanks to Rocky Baye. I always get his name wrong, Travis. We only spoke about it like 10 minutes ago, and I've already forgot how to pronounce.
I got a name we can start calling him. How about Sweet Tea Rocky B?
Sweet Tea Rocky D. Love it. Let's stick with it. But you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Rocky Baye, BAIA, where you can pick up Rocky's excellent new wrestling shirt, and of course the new Union Smack shirt, new logo, new site, new price. There you go.
Really excited and just thrilled to be on Pro Wrestling Tees finally. What a journey it's been to get there. And of course, Big Cartel, shout out to you. Been our home for the past couple of years. But man, thank you to Rocky Bias so much. Sweet Tea, Rocky B, pulling it out. A little drop of lemon in your drink too. Let's get down to the brass tacks, Matt. Why we're here? I guess the biggest elephant in the room, at least when I close my little eyes, and if someone asked me to think of the word pro wrestling in 2021, I guess the obvious, love them or hate them, I think my mind immediately goes to AEW with all the momentum they've had this fall already. I mean, Jesus Christ, you got to give the devil their due. Now, neither one of us, by any stretch of the imagination, for any first-time listeners, neither one of us are diehard AEW fans. We're very critical of AEW, but I think we're also very fair when it comes to AEW, and we'll tell it like it is. I think it's been a good month and a half, 2 months for AEW, but devil's advocate, I think it's been a little too many loads blown. It's been a little too much. You think about the month of September, this is a legit number, Matt. AEW had 9 ex-WWE employees debut in the month of September alone. That's enough for a year's worth of booking, maybe more.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you had Cole and Bryan on the same night. That's like two major viewerships you could have got out of two major pay-per-views. And then, of course, CM Punk, which I don't think either of us, Travis, last time we did this, last year, thought we'd be sitting here a year and a half later saying CM Punk is back in a wrestling ring.
I think I literally made the statement on a really old episode of this show years ago. I was certain CM Punk would never come back. I think the argument is made they all come back. Look at the Warrior, blah blah blah. I was like, and I think I said the statement was it just felt different with Punk. I really thought he was done, but never say never. I guess the price is always right.
Yeah, everyone's got their price, as Ted DiBiase once famously said.
Now he can go out there and who am I to judge him? He can claim that he's back because he loves wrestling and all this, but I'm sure he wasn't coming back for a bag of peanuts and a soda pop. I mean, I'm sure Tony Khan had to dig pretty deep to get CM Punk.
Yeah, I mean, CM Punk's one wealthy individual now.
And to be to be fair to Punk in his return promo, not to cut you off, he did actually make the line before anybody in the comments jumped down my throat that yeah, the money was a big reason he came back. He did say that, so I want to cover my ass.
Yeah. I think the money was obviously the main reason, but then, and I did something I don't usually do, Travis. I watched an AEW clip. Like, you know my stance on it. I won't watch the program. The fan base is getting toxic, as is the WWE fan base. But I watched the CM Punk return, and if he just did it for the money, I think the whole motivation changed as soon as he stepped out onto that stage.
Yeah. You could tell he really missed what he fell in love with in the first place, I would say, in that first night. Now, how they booked him, I mean, I guess I get it. They made him exclusive to Rampage. I'm going to need a little bit more, and I'm sure we'll get there eventually, more than just Lou Gehrig speeches, and I'm so happy to be here and calling out Taz's son. Like, I know he's had a couple matches with, like, really young guys, but I'm looking forward to the eventual CM Punk heel turn, as we probably all are.
Oh yeah, it's coming. It's coming on Bryan Danielson, or it's coming on Darby Allin, or it's coming on someone likes. I'm not even going to sit here and name wrestlers because I don't know half the AEW roster. It doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't interest me.
I don't think AEW knows half the AEW roster with all the revolving door on like Dark and Elevation, all the constant young guys.
They got about 7,000 wrestlers there now. It's like the cast of Ben-Hur.
I will say, I feel like one thing Tony Khan does do better than WWE, got to be honest. I feel like he's better at not just long-term storytelling, but having a payoff with incentive. Like, for as much as I can't stand watching a Young Bucks match or certain things like a Marco stunt irritate me, I feel like the Elite storyline's kind of been booked like the NWO was back in the day when the NWO was booked well, not the shitty days of the NWO, but like every little beatdowns meant something. And all roads led back to Adam Page returning or just Danielson and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Here's a big question I've had for you, and I've been dying to know because we've been very critical of one Kenneth Omega on this show for since day one we've done the show.
Yeah.
Well, the reign is in the books now. He's the belt collector, all this stuff, AAA, Impact, obviously AEW. What do you think? Has your opinion changed, being completely honest, at all on Kenny Omega, or do you kind of in the camp like a Jim Cornette where you think he's too hokey, he's too animated, it's too much to be taken serious, or have you come around a little bit?
Good question. I mean, I don't think I've come around on him because I think I've seen like one of his AEW matches because obviously I can't get it over here unless I pay a price for it, which I'm obviously not going to do for something I don't like. But I've heard good things about matches he's had with Christian, with Bryan Danielson, whoever else he's fought. But I've heard good things about his matches, but then I'd have to see them personally in order to change my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like right now, it's if I get it from you or I get it from Jim Cornette that actually that match was pretty good, then I'll take that at face value. But if some John Doe on Twitter with Kenny Omega as his Twitter picture says, "Oh, best match ever," that just goes straight over my head. If he has had matches as good as people have said, then yes, my stance would change on him. But right now, for me, he's just a very overrated, very over-exaggerated Al Snow lookalike.
Yeah, the facial hair does him no favors on that comparison.
Do you know what? When I first, because I obviously hadn't seen him for a while, when I first saw a picture of him with that Al Snow hairstyle and face, I thought, "Fuck me, they've not made Al Snow AEW champion, have they?" That was legitimate. I thought.
And it's ironic because I think the whole reason it was like an inside joke, like his facial hair is supposed to be the '05 Evolution Triple H facial hair because he's kind of in that same heel position. So I see what he was going for, but he just missed the mark on that. So it's totally Al Snow. One more question on AEW because, like I said, we have so much to get under this umbrella episode. What do you think about the signing of Bryan Danielson? Obviously, that's the most obvious question I could ask you. Obviously, we're going to agree it's a good call. It's always a great thing to have Bryan Danielson on your roster. But do you see this kind of going a route where eventually, like you would think of all the TNA guys in the past that had so much buzz when they first came. This is a game changer. I keep seeing game changer. I don't think Bryan Danielson is a game changer. I don't think he's that guy. I think a guy like a Brock. I think a guy like a Cena. Love him or hate him, a Roman Reigns. Those guys right now, when I look at the world of wrestling in 2021, those are needle movers and game changers. Bryan Danielson is just a hell of a hand and a hell of a veteran to have on your roster and make your product more refined.
Yeah, I mean, I can see him being AEW World Champion down the line, but is he a game changer? Not right now. I think he'd be very good for the young talent coming through. You look at who AEW have got to nurture in whoever they're going to bring in and whoever they've got on, Dark now. You've got Sting, to mentor them. You've got Daniel Bryan. You've got CM Punk there, although I'm not sure how much you're going to get out of him, training the next generation wise. I think AEW have pulled off a coup for the sake of it. I understand wanting Daniel Bryan on your roster, great wrestler. But for me, AEW probably just took him or offered him a contract, maybe to spite WWE.
Yeah, I could see that. Totally. Well, we all know Bryan Danielson's been making it loud and clear for years now that he's wanted to work guys from all over the world and New Japan and stuff like that. So now he gets to do that this Friday. We're on the eve as we record this. Minoru Suzuki versus Daniel Bryan announced. Bryan Danielson. Excuse me, I'm pretentious at heart. I gotta admit, for going head to head, the big coup this week, the big drama is that extra half hour of SmackDown this week, commercial free. WWE, at least, it's fair to say, Matt, we got to agree. There's no denying that and a year and a half later since we've done this, WWE looks at AEW as competition now, I feel like. 100%.
I mean, yeah, it looks that way. I mean, I've read magazine articles from people I've worked for in the past year or so that say they're not. Financially, yes, but television rating-wise, they're not. I think AEW, if you don't consider them competition, will be in another 6 months' time. But then again, we've seen how quickly, Travis, wheels can fall off of vehicles like this when too many chefs are in the kitchen. You know what I mean? They've got a lot of stars now, AEW. The Bryans, the Punks, et cetera, et cetera.
Adam Cole,
exactly. But I feel like if they're booked well in 6 months' time, obviously they can't all be on top. That's a given. But is all this talent hoarding gonna breed some contempt from diehard fans of these people? I think it might. I think it might put people off if Daniel Bryan in 6 months is losing to Powerhouse Hobbs, or CM Punk has turned heel, but it's had no major effect on the main event scene.
I think that's a double-edged sword, too, especially when it's like a young guy. Because you'll have a camp, if Punk, beats Hobbs, the camp saying, well, he's an established name, of course he should be beating Hobbs. But, you can't win because the other side's saying, well, it's just an ex-WWE fucking part-timer squashing young talent. That's what WWE does when people bitch about Goldberg, so...
Yeah,
that's my biggest concern too. You go back to the cooks in the kitchen expression, whatever. Yeah, it's also like ordering so much off the menu, right? Your eyes are bigger than your belly, and you finally get all your food. You can't eat it all, and I fear that's great to have all this talent, but you need to know what to do with them. Will they know what to do with them? If anyone's capable of it right now, and as far as booking in 2021, I guess Tony Khan would give him his due. He's a lifelong fan. He loves good wrestling, like the classic stuff. it's just you gotta pull back if you really want to.
Yeah.
If you really want to break out, you gotta pull back on this indie-rific garbage that's just sprinkled in that just sours so many of us on fully investing in the product.
Exactly. And I think Tony Khan, after the last few days at least, really needs to focus on his own brand rather than constantly taking shots at WWE. You know, and AEW fans can sit there and go, oh, it's been back and forth. But in reality, I haven't seen that many shots come from WWE's camp at AEW. Yeah, and then you've got Tony Khan coming out going, I've got more money than Vince. We're going to beat you SmackDown. Like openly.
He's doing what I like. He's doing what I like to call. He's out there bishing it up. It's exactly what Eric Bischoff used to do. And there's diehard bootlicking AEW cultists that always give AEW shit for that. They're defending the same company who in '98 was literally driving a tank to another promotion's goddamn television for their television. So, I mean, everyone's kind of guilty of doing that to get your name out there and get a buzz going. You mentioned your competition. Do they do it too much? I feel like that. It's one thing to do it on Twitter, but it's another thing to, all these... How many fucking months went by that every new signing that was WWE was the same bitter anti-WWE promo? Miro, Andrade, all this shit, At least they pull back a little bit on that on their television, and they focus just on their product. But as far as the tweeting and stuff, I get it, but at the same time, it is too much. It is a little too much right now with Tony Khan.
It is. It's not endearing fans to AEW who aren't already like diehard supporters.
Makes them look petty and childish, right?
It does. Because for me, it's like I don't even watch that much WWE anymore. So I'm not defending WWE. From what I've seen, the garbage. The product is garbage in certain areas, but just keep your mouth shut. Concentrate on your own product, and maybe you won't get fans who are bored of the bickering back and forth, looking at your product, going, "I'm not watching this because." I don't want to get involved in all the petty garbage that goes along with it.
At the end of the day, I guess I'm just thankful to have another actual option that's worth the shit, where it's not a TNA, it's not a Ring of Honor. It really feels like WCW is back in a way. And I feel like that's a good thing. I think creatively it makes, Vince always thrives in a competitive, environment, like everyone's said over the years, definitely. Ad nauseum. But that's it. Let's go to the other side of the coin. And you are 100% right. And boy, oh boy, let's talk about the complete cannibalization of the most popular wrestling program of all time, ratings-wise, Monday Night Raw. What an abysmal, pathetic, just lazy fucking show week after week. We've maybe had one or two passable episodes. Now, I wouldn't even say good episodes of Monday Night Raw this year. Passable. All year. That's how bad this show has gone. I'm at the point, Matt, and you can quote me, timestamp me, I don't give a fuck. I would rather watch an episode from May 95 of Monday Night Raw than the modern any day. Give me Waylon Mercy and T.L. Hopper over this fucking bullshit. There's not even a classy way to phrase Raw. It's just fucking bullshit. It's so bad.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously, again, can't get it over here. Network doesn't upload it for at least a month, Raw. So everything I've heard about it, Travis, it's just been not glowing reviews, let's say. I mean, the Big E thing got a massive pop. It was a change. But again, I think for Raw, they're lacking the fundamental Roman Reigns character, the overall story, the big star. And for me, it's just a bit of a scramble now of who can we push to the top that might be vaguely interesting in 6 months if we don't get bored and put the machine behind them. Exactly.
And the Big E thing, too, that's only recently. It's only seemed like in the past month, I finally feel like they're getting some shit in the right direction. Like, whatever they're doing with Shayna Baszler right now, where she's methodically taking out every woman that the internet loathes, Eva Marie, Nia Jax, it's been amazing. I don't know why it hasn't been like this from the beginning with Shayna Baszler. At least that's kind of cooking a little bit. The Big E stuff's been all right. I think the problem with there is they just haven't taken time to build up any fucking contenders, so it seems watered down. Now, for as great as the Big E cash-in was, like I said, was recently, my whole point on this before I became long-winded, shocker, The Nikki Ash cash-in, whole other side of the spectrum. What a flop the Nikki Ash character was. To the point children were booing this woman on house shows. Your core audience this was intended for turned on the woman. Children booed her. That's how bad it was.
You made the audience this was tailor-made for hate. The act that you built up. That takes some doing. But now I think she's with Rhea Ripley. I've not seen the reactions. I've not seen them as a tag team yet. I don't think they were on. What the fuck was the last pay-per-view?
It's terrible. It's the typical WWE stereotypical odd couple booking, just in a cheesy, hokey way. And let's start that part of the show where we talked about off-air, certain NXT UK call-ups. This is where I start getting my heart broken. Rhea Ripley.
Oh, God.
Rhea Ripley, I think Rhea Ripley's biggest problem since she's got called up to the main roster, it's not an in-ring thing, it's not a promo thing. She has no identity. They don't know who the fuck she is. The fans don't know who Rhea Ripley is. Rhea Ripley should have been exactly what she was that we've seen her in NXT UK, this monster killer heel. She's out there holding hands now with this odd couple team with Nikki Ash. Just the boneheaded, loss to Charlotte. Just all this dumb shit that I'd feared and I knew they were going to fucking do with Rhea Ripley.
Yep.
What's your 2 cents on Rhea's ascent, quote unquote?
I had so much hope when she first came to Raw, beating Asuka at WrestleMania for the title. And then I feel like that was the one good thing. She's had a few good matches with Charlotte Flair on pay-per-view, granted, but the character-wise, there's just nothing there. And already, 6 months into a main roster debut, I feel like she's already treading water.
Yeah.
In her tag team division that means nothing. It's like, how can you do that to a woman that was one of the highlights of the NXT UK women's division, one of the highlights of the NXT women's division, and now you've just made her ordinary?
I feel like those damn WWE women's titles are just death at this point. They are possibly the most worthless titles I've ever seen. At least the 24/7 title, I don't know. I'm not even going to finish that sentence. They're both equally worthless, but man, they have just shit the bed isn't even a proper expression for how bad they've just blundered those women's tag belts and what they should be by now.
Yeah, and amongst all the releases we've had, you couldn't release 2 titles that people just have no interest in.
Amongst almost 90 releases since May and June of this year, we have yet to get any kind of announcement on their release of the 2 worst wrestlers in the entire world who remain employed on the same fucking brand, Tamina and Nia Jax. Some things really do never change, Matt.
Oh, I was waiting for that. I was waiting. But you're right. They're still there, I think, until The Rock comes back for one final match. I read on Twitter today, Thursday as we record this, that there's no plans for WrestleMania next year. So it'll be WrestleMania 39. So we could be looking at Nia Jax and Tamina for another 2 years.
I'm sure Nia Jax and Tamina both looked at their phone and saw the rumor that The Rock is going to be another year, and they're probably just, whew, dodged a bullet.
Employed for another year. Whew.
Let's before we move to SmackDown, let's just do that real quick. And it's not to pick on the woman. It's not. I don't have a vendetta against her, but. And this is the one thing with this stupid bullshit wrestling war, quote unquote, with AEW and WWE fans. It's like certain things in wrestling, at least both sides, still come to the middle and shake hands on. And that's the utter abysmal work rate, promo skills, just professional wrestling in general of Nia Jax. Nobody wants Nia Jax on their television. It's not even an ironic way with how they're booking Eva Marie, how they're doing. This is just, this woman, I've never seen anything like it. At least King Mabel got a little bit better every year because he got experience. How do you get this experience with this world caliber talent year after year? This is 7 years this woman has been here, Matt. 7. And she just gets worse and worse. And down and down and down we go until the whole roster's concussed.
Your entire women's division is wiped out by one woman.
Yeah. That fucking match with Charlotte a few weeks ago on Raw. What the fuck was that?
I think it's entitlement, Travis, to be honest. It's like she knows she's not going anywhere. And so that in her mind, that spread as an attitude of well, I don't really have to bother anymore. They're not going to fire me. Dwayne isn't going to be along for X amount of time, so I'm not going anywhere. Doesn't matter what I do, how bad I am. Just, see, I'm laughing because it's so pathetic.
She
but-
probably carries around an actual little ID card that says, "I've got Dwayne's support. Back off." And she's immune. She's immune. She could do things that Tessa Blanchard does, and she could still keep her job because she's got Dwayne's support.
She has it. Oh God.
Let's SmackDown. Talk about. Oh my God, Toni Storm. For one, Toni Storm debuted what 9 weeks ago. They had a vignette. She had a match, and then we didn't see her for 5 fucking weeks. Not a mention, and now she's back. And what are they doing in this Queen's Crown tournament? Oh.
What have they had? Like 4 matches that have combined been under 10 minutes.
And on the SmackDown side, your 2 advancing people in the first round, Zelina Vega and Carmella. What?
Toni Storm was a casualty of that, I believe, was she not?
Zelina Vega hasn't won shit since she's come back all year. She's done nothing. But all of a sudden, she's defeating Toni Storm.
Oh, mate. I mean, like, this is why I dread NXT call-ups, NXT UK call-ups, I should say, to NXT and the main roster. And, you look at Toni Storm, you look at Rhea Ripley, you look at... I'm not even going to call her Doudrop. She's piping Niven.
Oh.
Don't get me onto that. You look at all these stars that have come up from NXT UK, and you just think they've done nothing meaningful with any of them. And the one they did do something meaningful with, Rhea Ripley, it lasted, 3 weeks?
The biggest thing an former NXT UK alumni's done is Rhea Ripley defeated Asuka at WrestleMania for the belt. But nobody remembers that match because it was overshadowed by Sasha and Bianca, I feel like.
Yes, that's a good point. And I think then the subsequent matches between Rhea Ripley and Asuka were not great. So I've not seen them on Raw, but I've heard not great things about them. Who's going to be the next? Ridge Holland's going to be the next.
Yeah. God forbid when Pete Dunne finally gets the call. If Pete Dunne ever gets the call. No. I mean, we're looking at a company where Aaliyah got called up over LA Knight, Pete Dunne, fucking, like, Jesus Christ. That's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough.
I mean, right now I'm fine with Pete Dunne staying in NXT.
Yeah.
Seeing how everyone's been treated. But, he's not even getting treated well there. Never-ending feuds with Kyle O'Reilly. Just being looked over time and time again. I mean, you put the title on Tommaso Ciampa in an era where you're looking and focusing on new young talent.
I think that changes soon, though. I think there's no reason they don't put the belt on Little Steiner. I refuse to call him Braun Breaker. Rex Steiner was a great name. Like
Braun Breaker. That's got Vince stamped all over it.
I will say that kid's great. If you close your eyes, you hear Scott. If you open your eyes, you see Rick. It's the best way to describe Braun Breaker.
Yes, I don't think he's ready for the big time yet, but
I think they're going to give him the belt because it's what NXT used to be in like 2012, 2013. It's just on television now. I'm okay with that. I think the old NXT, in my opinion, we can move on to NXT. I mean, Roman Reigns I was going to go like Roman Reigns segment, but we all know that's been the only good thing in WWE this year. Yeah. We don't really need to get into that. The new NXT relaunch, I think it was long overdue. I think the old NXT, come at me, was stale. I hate to say it. It was dark. Nothing jumped off the screen about it, especially in this new Capital Wrestling crap they're doing. The plexiglass, it was time. I think the booking did need a shake-up. There's really no more indie stars to bring in to shock people anymore. They're either swooped up or just there's no talent available like that on that caliber. What do you think of the relaunch of NXT so far, Matt, if you've called any of it?
I watched the first and second episode. That was fine. The two, I can't remember. Is it the Creed brothers in the Diamond Mine?
Yes.
Yes, I'm very impressed with them. I can see sparks of light with Steiner, but even as champion, he's going to take another year or so to properly bed in. It looked really good. The booking, I had no problem with it. Obviously, apart from Pete Dunne not winning the NXT Championship.
Yeah.
I don't see where anyone good goes from here. When Ciampa loses the title to Steiner, what then? You know, once Pete Dunne and Kyle O'Reilly have gone another year into this never-ending feud, what then for them?
I guess maybe LA Knight in a program for the title, but look what they've booked LA Knight like shit, so he can even be taken serious? Like,
I would have pushed LA Knight onto SmackDown.
they're doing
Honestly,
this weird gimmick now with Parker Bordeaux, where he looks like Uncle Fester, and his name's now Harlan. This by the way, this Joe Gacy gimmick sucks. What is this? I don't want politics in my wrestling. Get that gimmick the fuck out of here. But he did like the weird, like he caressed his face. Did you see that?
Yes.
What's happening on NXT?
I saw the clip on Twitter.
Is this a bathhouse or a wrestling show, man? What the fuck is happening?
Oh my god.
Excuse me.
We've descended into the realm of madness now. You've got Parker Bordeaux was insanely popular on Twitter, like 3 months ago when he had all that hair and people going, "Oh look, it's Baby Brock."
Little Brock, yeah.
And it was like, wow, this guy could be a star if he can wrestle. You know, he could be a literal star in the business. And then NXT 2.0 kicks off, and no Parker Bordeaux. You've got
Lil Snitsky.
Bron Bray. Yeah, you've got Little Snitsky in his bald head being caressed by Joe Gacy. So you've got Bron Breakker.
What a sentence!
You've got Bron Breakker being pushed into a role that he doesn't fit yet. And it's like, I feel like they're trying to force a square peg into a round hole. But right now, it's not going. For me, 4 weeks into the relaunch, it's died down a lot.
Yeah. The funny thing about the Parker Bordeaux thing is, like, I always thought he was cocky as shit on Twitter. But you can tell since he's been signed and they're getting ready for TV, just you can see, like, they're just sucking the soul out of this kid. His tweets are sad now. Like, ever since his name was announced as Harlan, and now there's no way, like, he could have any kind of, like, confidence about his appearance right now with what they made him do. Kind of like fucking Otis. Like, what they made Otis do.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Although, I will say, to be fair, for some reason, this Otis character, Otis the Destroyer, has grown on me a little bit with Chad Gable, but I know they'll never do anything with that, so I'm not even going to waste my time caring about that gimmick.
See, Alpha Academy had so much potential, but then
Gable Steveson was signed, so, you know.
I think he's going to flop.
I do, too.
For me,
Thank you for bringing that up.
I think he's going to be a massive... People look at it and going, oh, next Kurt Angle... And I'm looking at him going, in this WWE, in 2021, probably won't even make his debut until 2022. I think he's going to die a death, Travis.
Here's what people always forget, too, when people bring up Kurt Angle being such a prodigy and one of the all-time greats. People bring that up, and it's true about Kurt, and I know you're going to agree with me. It's not just because Kurt was phenomenal in ring. Kurt Angle had everything. In an insanely short amount of time, he learned it. He had charisma. He could obviously work like a god in there. The ridiculous funny skits with Austin. Kurt could do it all. Gable Steveson looks like he has the charisma of a damp bath towel, to be totally honest with you. He looks like Miro. He doesn't jump off my screen. He looks, I hate to say this, because it's not like I'm a big deezed up gym guy. He doesn't look like he's cut or in shape. He looks like a skinny fat guy who won a medal. He looks like your ordinary fucking guy that goddamn serves you at fucking Starbucks. A barista. I am totally, thank you for saying that. I am so on board with you. I see people are hyped and blah, blah, blah. For one, what message does that send with guys and gals who have busted their ass in NXT for years? For a guy that's not even trained yet, just got signed to Raw. Not even trained. What message does that send? Not that morale was great this year to begin with, on top of it, in that company.
That's a total Vince McMahon looking at him and going, we found our next Kurt Angle.
My God.
You know, like you say, there's no charisma, there's no real look or uniqueness about him. And there's where in 2000 we were, like when we were approaching No Mercy 2000, you know, people were saying, yeah, I can see Kurt Angle beating The Rock for the title. Yeah. Can you imagine getting to, I don't know, SummerSlam 2022 and going, I can see Gabe Stevenson beating Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship.
No.
It's just, there's not the same aura about him. He's got flop written all over him. But I'm sure they'll push him to the moon.
And I'm sure, God forbid, if we're wrong in like 2 or 3 years and he's like this amazing performer, people are going to come back with this episode. So bring it on. We're calling your bluff because it ain't happening. I don't see it happening at all.
No, nor do I.
Might as well put the
Nor do I.
fucking world title on Sean Stasiak in 98. That's the same way I look at it. Like, there's nothing here for me. Let's talk about this. One of the biggest tragedies this year. And it's not like anybody died. A career died. One of the most promising, biggest potentials I've seen in 10 years. Gone. There's no coming back from this. Velveteen Dream. The allegations. Shit canned. Yeah. Nobody wants Velveteen Dream on their screen. Justified. He's up there with Tessa Blanchard right now. Although we can get to Tessa in a little bit and all that ridiculous shit going on with WoW, Women of Wrestling. Velveteen Dream done, though, Matt. I mean, what? The only thing comes to your mind, what a shame. What a waste.
Oh, yeah, total waste of a promising career. And, I don't know whether you'd say credit to WWE for trying to push on with it and, include him on television. Much to his detriment, I seem to remember, after the allegations. But, yeah, done. Dusted. He needs to be looking for another career now. I think even when he was released from NXT, he was due to appear on another indie show, and they just cancelled him straight out.
I remember that. The promoter of that indie show put out the tweet promoting him. Like, he was booked, and then everybody just gave the promoter so much shit that he contacted Patrick Clark, was like, look, man, it's not happening. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't need canceled over your booking appearance.
And I mean, if these, obviously we don't know, Travis, whether these allegations are true, whether it's somebody jumping on the bandwagon. Obviously, we've seen texts on Twitter that allude to the fact it could be true.
Right.
But the speaking out movement, and I don't think people have spoken enough about the speaking out movement on podcasts, etc. It has, I'm not going to say ruined a lot of careers, because obviously the ones that the allegations that were true, the perpetrators deserve to be ruined and chased out the business. But for a lot of other people who have been let back into the business, i.e. Jordan Devlin, Joe Coffey, etc., I think it's done a lot of damage to their careers, be it true or not. And did you hear the El Ligero news?
I did not. Breaking news right here.
So apparently he's been wrestling in the UK for, let me get this right, I think they said it was Mega Slam Wrestling or All-Star Wrestling.
Oh my God. More like Mega Tone Deaf Wrestling.
But no, he's ditched the El Ligero gimmick and he's now wrestling under, I think it's Spider-Man or
what?
The Mexican Spider-Man.
Is that like his little scheme to get booked? Like they won't know it's me.
Can you imagine? So actor, wear a different mask.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, we go back to the speaking out movement. I mean, our show at one point when that came out was even kind of in jeopardy because that was half of our goddamn roster for NXT UK. But Travis Banks, El Ligero, Jack Gallagher. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah. It was grim, but at the end of the day, it weeded out the bad. Some people got back in. Some allegations were proved to be, false. I think Jordan Devlin came out of that looking the best out of all of them. We can't comment, I don't think, on the Sid Scala thing because there's still an ongoing.
That's so hard to picture, by the way. Sid Scala being a creep like that. He seems just like this little petite, nice man, like Pee Wee Herman.
I'm not going to be able to not see that now. Christ almighty.
I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the biggest release of the entire year before we get into our bread and butter NXT to round off this episode, or comeback episode, Matt. Bray Wyatt. That was beyond shocking, to be totally honest. Unless the shoot interview is going to come out years from now, we'll really know what happened. Biggest merch seller, possibly best original character, probably the best on the mic in the entire company. In ring, good enough for me. The asinine booking, the loss to Goldberg, the ridiculous Alexa Bliss bullshit. They destroyed that character. They had such a good thing going ever since that Hell in a Cell with Rollins. But I feel like that character was strong enough and so beloved underneath all the shit booking at the end of the day. You could always make a strong comeback. Look at The Undertaker. How many years in the early 90s did we see Giant Gonzalez feuds, Kamala, King Kong Bundy? And yet, A couple years later, he was the world champ, top of the card. People act like it never fucking happened. Undertaker versus Undertaker, no recollection of that happening. So I feel like you could have got around the Goldberg loss and stuff like that, but just to fire the guy, what an unbelievably boneheaded decision to lose a talent like that. There's no way if I have a company in the modern era that I'm letting that guy go.
No, I agree. I mean, yeah, personally, the writing was on the wall after that WrestleMania. Well, I don't even know what to call it, debacle.
And that's how they started night 2, by the way. That's how they started the night with that booking.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
Just the burial of the one of the most popular characters in the company. But I think we had a few, messages on Twitter, you and me, where we were just like, Bray Wyatt's next to be cut. I think we could see it coming, but it was still a terrible decision.
Yeah, I never really thought it would happen.
Yeah, because he wasn't in a good place personally. He was still dealing with the Brody Lee loss and all that. WWE, it was just like, what, you're mourning, right? Out the door you go, bye bye. It looked bad for WWE. It was unfortunate for Bray Wyatt. Will he bounce back? I think he will. I think he'll tinker around the indies for a little bit. Maybe he'll go to Impact. Maybe he'll go to AEW. But ultimately, I think he'll end up back in WWE 2 years from now. I think the Fiend will be back because the door's open. I don't think there's any real ill will between Bray Wyatt and WWE.
Homegrown talent too.
Yeah, homegrown talent. I think he'll probably be a bit bitter right now that he was let go. But time heals everything, Travis. And the character of the Fiend, you can just strap him back up, send him back out, and it'll be like nothing's ever happened in a year, 2 years.
That company seems like such a jungle to work for. Just the toil that working for that company, I can imagine, takes on your emotion. We've seen people since the releases this year. We've seen every kind of side of it. We've seen people like the Adam Coles and Bryan Danielson are so happy to be out of there. Obviously, when Moxley left years ago, he was so happy. But then you see the other side, like the Iconics. And I've seen Billie Kay come out in interviews where this really affected her depression-wise. She's not been in a good place. And obviously, we see they're debuting on Impact. They finally went to Impact. But it all depends, I guess, case to case on how it affects the person. I'd like to think that Bray's happy to be off the road and spend some time with his family for now. For me, I've seen the rumors that he's going to Impact. The only feasible place for Bray Wyatt to end up has got to be AEW if he wants to stay relevant in that way. Maybe New Japan, but with the COVID risks over there right now and just there's no buzz on that product, I wouldn't do it. It's got to be AEW. I'm not going to lie to people who said I'm not going to be disappointed if he goes to Impact. I'd be disappointed because nobody watches Impact.
I mean, that's true, but then if I was Bray Wyatt, in my head it would be like, do I want to jump from one major organisation to another right now when I'm not really sure where I am personally?
Yeah.
I think going to Impact, though nobody watches it really, it might do him some good, like wrestling-wise. Yeah, we've seen people leave WWE who were okay in the ring, go to New Japan, go to Impact, whatever, and then come back 5 years later and they're like, fuck me, is that the same wrestler? You know what I mean? That they've improved that much.
Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre, exactly. I think Bray Wyatt would benefit maybe from Impact, from a few weeks in Ring of Honor, then maybe a year in AEW. You know what I mean? Just to brush up his game, and then back to WWE is his final destination. I don't think he's gone for good. I think WWE have respect. I know people will be laughing, but they have respect for the Wyndham Rotunda / family. So I think he'll be back at some point. I don't think this is the end for Bray Wyatt in WWE.
I don't either. And a lot of people's speculation is still on high alert too because he's yet to change his Twitter handle to take the WWE out of his name. Unless it happened literally today, which I doubt, it's still there as WWE Bray Wyatt. Let's round the home stretch, Matt, to our baby, our bread and butter since day one, your official NXT UK podcast. What's happened in the past year and a half in NXT UK? Well, for one, new location, new Heritage Cup, new old school World of Sport round system type matches. They've definitely done a lot of throwbacks in NXT UK, which I appreciate, a nod to the old school style. Now, there's been some busts, especially in your opinion. You're not big on the A-Kids. I don't know where... It is shocking to me that Mustache Mountain is still a team at this point, but I still say it's the most underrated team in professional wrestling that nobody gives a shit about and watches. You put the Young Bucks against Mustache Mountain for me any day, I'm going to go Mustache Mountain. Not even a question.
Yeah.
What do you think of where? And you wrote a book on the goddamn company. I don't have the credentials, quite frankly, to talk about it like you. Where do you think it is? It a good place or a bad place? NXT UK in this moment right now.
Right now, it's in a very, very good place. When it came back last year, BT Sports Studios looked amazing. The product wasn't great, when it came back after the pandemic. There were loose ends to be tied up, which felt like a bit messy. But since then, we've had the Dragunov Walter series, which was epic. Walter was, and I apologise to Walter because when he beat Pete Dunne for the title, we sat here and said Walter's never going to be a good champion. Walter was a good champion.
I think that was you, not me.
You agreed.
I just didn't want the reign. I didn't want the reign to end. I didn't want that. But who knew we'd have a longer reign with Walter?
Exactly, and it was a good reign. He had great matches with everyone. He pulled a great main event out of Joe Coffey at Blackpool too. But since we've got Kenny Williams, great heel turn. I'm loving what Kenny Williams is doing now. We've got rid of Amir Jordan. I'm sure not forever, but Kenny Williams is a great heel, and I can't mention the success of NXT UK without standing ovation for Pretty Deadly, because they came in as a pretty unknown tag team. They'd done the rounds on the UK independent circuit, and everyone here knew who Sam Stoker and Lewis Howley were. But then they came into NXT in 2018, beginning of 2019. Jobber team, weren't really going anywhere.
I think we said I think back then we even said they sounded like a law firm.
Yes, we did. And then NXT UK comes back after the pandemic, and suddenly they're the team to beat. Dethrone Gallus, and since then they've been one of the highlights for me. I love Pretty Deadly. I don't know how you feel about them, but for me, they've really held NXT UK together with everything else going on around them.
I like them, breakthrough stars. How do you feel about the international flavor they thrown in in the women's division, the new champ?
Oh, I wasn't keen on Meiko Satomura, not to begin with. I still think she's more of a transitional champion than a long term. I think the title's going to Blair Davenport / Bea Priestley. I'm more disappointed with Amelia McKenzie. I thought they'd bring her in. Obviously, student friend of Pete Dunne. I thought they'd give her the female Pete Dunne treatment. They haven't. She's more of an enhancement talent right now than she is a bona fide star. But they're going with Satomura versus Davenport, I'm sure. So I don't know. I think the women's division has gone from one of the best in the world
to one of the most lackluster.
Yeah, I mean stagnant. Definitely.
I think Aoife Valkyrie ended up kind of being a little bit of a bust. I expected bigger things.
Me too. I thought Aoife Valkyrie would dethrone Kaylee Ray, but obviously they were high on Satomura, and you can see why. Massive experience, great wrestler.
Yeah.
But I worry when the title comes off of her and goes to Bea Priestley.
I also don't think they. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I don't rate Bea Priestley as a wrestler. She's not shown me anything in NXT UK so far that I've looked at and gone, do you know what? She could carry the division. So no. For me, keep it on Satomura. Possibly put it on McKenzie after she's turned heel. And that's another thing I was going to say, Travis. There's a lot of people in NXT UK right now, roster-wise, that need a heel turn.
Yeah.
Trent Seven needs to turn heel on Tyler Bates. Amelia McKenzie, she's only been there, 3-4 months? She needs to turn heel desperately.
She needs an edge.
Fast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She needs that edge. There were some others that escape me now who need a good heel turn, but I think Rampage Brown is one of them. He's much better as a heel than he is as a babyface. And
I think it's fair to say he's been their biggest signing this year, bringing him in. Obviously, he's a legend over there, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a bit disappointed with what they've done with him. The Joe Coffey trilogy of matches was very, very good indeed. The loss to Walter, I think there were a lot of people here that expected him to dethrone Walter instead of Dragunov. But apart from that, I feel like he's been brought in more to guide young talent rather than, stand tall. But I know I won't spoil anything, but we are going to get a Dragunov Rampage Brown feud, I think, beginning of 2020. I know that for certain.
I think that's obviously where you should go. And the Walter reign ended up being great. I agree too. I think what made it the best, though, why I don't like it more than Pete's done. I like them for their own reasons. But the perfect thing about Walter's reign is it just felt like the right time, and Dragunov was the right guy finally. It's like with Roman Reigns right now. It still doesn't feel like the time. Even though Roman Reigns has held this belt for a year and a half, it doesn't feel like the right time yet. I don't think Brock should win. No way.
No, of course he shouldn't. No.
And it was time with Walter. What? Obviously, hands down, best match of that takeover. One of my top 3 matches of the year was Dragunov and Walter. Yeah. What a fucking war. They always did have wars in WXW. But there's so many talent I see that's just literally doing the exact same fucking thing they were doing when we started this show in the beginning. Isla Dawn, no progression. Jenny, criminally no progression. She should be a multiple-time women's champ, but I love Jenny. Even though, Joe Coffey's done a lot, Wolfgang a little bit of stuff, and like the Cup tournament stuff, they're pretty much in the same exact place they are. Everyone has the same theme music, same Titantron. Wolfgang is... I've expected more out of Wolfgang. I've expected a split from Gallus with Wolfgang, him as a single by now. I just wish they would shake up more, at least move some people around. I mean, hell, I'd rather have Isla Dawn on SmackDown than fucking Aaliyah, like I said earlier. Like, Isla Dawn's not great, but she's not terrible.
No. And can I just special mention to Subculture? Who the fuck have you done to them?
Yeah.
Like, I had high hopes when they added Danny Luna. They officially called them Subculture, and now they're just an enhancement team. They're just losing all. Flash Morgan Webster should be one of the top heels on NXT UK.
Yeah.
He's got the smug. We've said this time and time again, Travis. He's got the smugness. He's got the ability. But at the same time, it's like he's just nowhere. He's going nowhere. He's done nothing. And he needs to turn on Mark Andrews. Possibly have a little love triangle with Danny Luna there. Maybe not love triangle, but, loyalty triangle, where she sides with Mark Andrews to begin with. And then she turns on Mark Andrews, sides with Flash Morgan Webster, and push him up the card. I'd like to see Dragunov versus Webster, 25 minutes for the title. Just something different.
I agree. There's no reason that team should still be together. I'm totally on board with you.
And as much as I like Mark Andrews, and yes, he's one of the founding fathers of NXT UK, I think his time on the brand is up.
And for as great as he is in the ring and all the great, wonderful matches and accomplishments he's had, he's so dull on the mic, and he's just so.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mark Andrews. I'm just happy to be here. I'm in a band, by the way. That's Mark Andrews.
That's literally every promo he's ever done.
Yeah, I'm Welsh.
Oh my god. I think that's also a special shout out has to go to Sam Gradwell as well. This guy has gone from basically enhancement talent in the first ever tournament to injured for like a year and a half. Came back with a stupid haircut, and now he's just a really good hit. I enjoy Sam Gradwell, and I never thought I'd be saying that like this time 2 years ago.
Yeah, he came back looking like the bastard child of Sheamus and Big Cass. And you know what? He was an unknown in the first tournament. They put a lot of that like night one into him with the storyline, like getting attacked from Pete Dunne. They saw something back then,
and they were right. I think we did a few reviews, and it's definitely in the book that he wasn't great to begin with, but you know what? Heritage Cup champion, I think.
I think back with just basic bald babyface Sam Gradwell on that tour, wasn't I like a big advocate for him back then? Like I really saw something, I think, and you were the opposite or something.
I think you might have done. It definitely wasn't me. I saw nothing in him.
I just remember you always being like, fucking Sam Gradwell.
Yeah, but then he was one of them. They put him with Tyson T-Bone as a tag team in the very early days of NXT UK before he got injured, and that was tiresome.
I do not long for the days of Tyson T-Bone on my television.
Okay, let's swap subjects. Symbiosis thoughts.
What?
You've seen Symbiosis, right?
No.
Oh my god. Okay, so basic backstory. Wild Boar Mike Hitchman injured. He's going to be out for like a year and a half. They then had Eddie Dennis and the Hunt break up. Primate and Eddie Dennis turned on Wild Boar, and then they added T-Bone to the group and called themselves Symbiosis.
That's another guy right there. Thank you for bringing him up. That I feel like should have been doing way more by now. Is Eddie Dennis? What a waste.
Yeah. And you know what was more of a waste? And I don't know whether you saw it. Eddie Dennis lost to Saxon Huxley, who for some reason is still around.
Good Lord.
Singles match, Saxon Huxley pinned him clean in the middle of the ring.
Well, on that note, with that little tidbit, that's definitely got me in the mood for next week to talk about NXT UK. What a shit fucking booking decision that is. But this has not been a shit comeback, a shit return, and a shit episode. Matt, it's so good. I don't have the words to describe how good it is to have the band back together doing this again. I'm glad we pretty much covered up the entire wrestling world in this episode. I'm proud of us for the format. Before we get out of here, one more time, where can everyone catch you?
You can catch me on Twitter at BruiserMate. That's M8. Don't type the word mate in. You'll get nothing back. Go to lulu.com where you can buy my books, The Undertaker, A Trip Down Death Valley, NXT UK Year 1, and ProWrestlingTees.com/Rocky Baia, BAIA, where you can pick up Rocky's wrestling t-shirt and, of course, the new Union Smack shirt. Do go there. Do continue to support us. And thank you, I'd just like to say, for everyone who messaged me over this last year and a half, Travis, saying, is it going to come back? Is Union Smack going to come back? And I was always like, it will at some point. But, you know, me and Travis are in busy places right now. But, you know, the fan base is stuck by us, Travis, and none more so than Rocky. I have to send a special thank you out to Rocky, who, you know, he was there for the show even when it wasn't on air. He created our new logo, you know, our new little glitch thing, and he was so supportive. He was, yeah, every time I talked to Rocky, he was, I miss you and Travis, I miss listening to you. I don't know what's happening on NXT UK anymore because I used to get it all from the podcast. So thank you, Rocky. You've been a literal rock, good friend to the show, and we can't thank you enough.
Amen. Thank you to all you guys who stuck around. I've got the DMs too. You've asked. It's good to be back. And we're not going to sell you short. We're going to give you exactly what you've been waiting for. Tons of content from the Union Smack podcast. And thank you again to our boy Sweet Tea, Rocky B, for everything you've ever done for the show. Pro Wrestling Tees, BigCartel.com, new merchandise, returns, everything in between. Union Smack is back. And as always, hit that red button down below. Subscribe right here on YouTube, Hibiki TMD. And who knows what other ventures and platforms you can find this show on in the coming year. Matt, my friend, it's been way too long since I've gotten a chance to say this, but let's see if I still got it. Until next time, cheerio, mates.